the interesting thing and why the discussions are always interesting because nobody's right and nobody's wrong. I mean, there's extremes. You're wrong if you know, or quote wrong if you don't care about some of this stuff at all and it's out of whack, and then you wonder why your beer isn't turning out how you want.
Right.
Okay, then
Yeah.
maybe you need to focus on such and such. Like when I first started doing all grain, I'm like, I'm not gonna be a water chemistry nerd. I have no interest in that. But then after I'd made a couple of batches just with spring water and they were just kind of okay. And I was talking to there's a local brewery here called Social Fabric that used to be called Discovery Bay. When it was Discovery Bay, they made beer that was just kind of okay. You know, I'd go in there, it's like, yeah, it's, you know, nice setting, sitting outside on their patio having a beer, but it was just kind of okay beer. And then when I know the guy who owns Social Fabric now, and he said, well, they weren't treating their water at all. It was just
Okay.
city water. It's like, okay, well, that, you know, makes a difference. And anyway, after I'd done a couple of all grain batches, I'm like, okay, I'm going to, again, just use Brewfather. I will never understand the water chemistry like John Palmer or anything, but I'm going to
Sure.
use that as a starting point and just start doing essentially the profile. And, you know,
Uh-huh.
you got to get the basics right. If you're going for hoppy, you know, versus not, and soft bitterness versus hard, you got to have the chloride to sulfate stuff the way you want it for at a minimum. And that makes a huge difference. So it's these little things. And same thing there. It's like I've gotten to a point where, you know, I put it into Brewfather, I look at it, eyeball it, okay, gut check, it looks okay. And then I actually, in some cases, throw it into Google Gemini and say, hey, I'm making this kind of beer. Here's the water profile I'm starting with. What do you think? And it'll have sometimes have suggestions. Sometimes it'll say that looks great. And the nice thing there is then it can tell you like, oh, well, if you know, if you want this to be a little bit better in balance, here's how you can tweak the various things, you know, various additions, which is hard to do in Brewfather, at least for me, because it's like I up this by a zero point 0.1 gram and something else gets out of whack. And I think the AI tools are good at saying, well, if you're going to adjust this, you also need to do this other thing, and you may want to consider adding this thing that you don't even have on your list of additions. So I still don't get too into it, but it's fun to mess around with it. And I think it does make a difference in the beer for sure. So I would say
Uh-huh.
anybody who's doing all grain, if you're still just doing spring water, that's fine. But you can keep it pretty darn easy if you just use software and plug in the style you're going for, and it will make a big difference in the outcome, I think.
Yep. Yeah, the three salts I mainly dance around the most is Epsom salt, calcium chloride, and gypsum. Those are the kind of ones
Yeah.
I kind of just dance around with. I know some people use like baking soda and a few other ones, but I don't mess with those. The beers I make, I've not had the opportunity to use anything like that. I've used lactic acid a couple times because the grain was too high of a pH. I wanted to drop it down just a little bit more. I did find out that if you go a little too heavy with lactic acid, like nothing tastes right. It just has a weird, for me anyways, for my palate, has a weird, I don't know. I hate to say acidic flavor, but it does. It has this unique acidic flavor to it that is hard for me. I can just taste it. It's like, is it Black Prince? I think it's what it is. Or Black
Okay.
Pence,
Yeah.
the malt. Like
Yep.
I could taste that in any beer, and I'm not a fan of
Okay.
it. Like you can use like dark chocolate or dark malts or anything like that, but that one alone, just the bitterness or the astringent or whatever it is, like I
Mm.
can pick it out, and I'm not a fan. And I made a stout with it once, like that's one of the reasons why I could taste it. I think I added just a tad bit too much. What I mean by tad bit too much, like I think I had 4 ounces I was going to add, and I think I had 5 ounces. I threw in 5 ounces into it. I think the extra
Oh, okay.
ounce just threw way out of it. I just didn't know what to do with an extra ounce. I just throw it in. It
Yeah.
was gross. So gross.
Yeah, it's interesting because everybody's palate is different, and definitely on the lactic acid. If you find yourself in a situation where you're having to add a lot, then it can make a difference. And I haven't had to use it yet, but I keep phosphoric acid on hand just in case,
Okay.
because then you can add a lot less of that to adjust your pH without throwing it out of whack. But yeah, like you said, I think those three salts, gypsum, calcium chloride, and Epsom salt, those are the three I add to everything. And then on occasion, I have to put some baking soda in. Maybe done that twice in the last year or so. I can't even remember what recipes those were for, but that gets you, you know, pretty much all the way there.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's not
and
a whole
it's, you
lot
know, and I
really
did,
either.
yeah. Oh yeah. And it takes 2 seconds to weigh that stuff out and do it. And it makes, I think, a huge difference. Cause if you, at least I will say, if going back to that brewery that didn't treat their water, all their beers were okay, but they also all kind of tasted the same. And I think the big difference is in the water. So again, I'm not somebody who wants to spend a lot of time thinking about water chemistry, but that little bit of extra time, a little bit of extra effort can make a big difference in the outcome.